Thank you, everyone. It's hard to follow the live demo with drums, but I'll try to share a couple of quick stories. Just like Mike was sharing the perspective of a teacher, I'll share with you my experience as a horrible student. So for all the teachers in the room, I'm probably one of those students that you love to just kick out of your class. I was always the one raising my hand and saying, but why? But why? That makes no sense to me, but why? So I was, of course, disrupting the class. I was not a popular kid with the teachers. The kids loved me for distracting the class, so that worked out. So I was in 4th grade, and I was reading a lot of my dad's books. He was an avid reader, and I think my parents figured out the only way to keep me quiet and sitting in one place was to just give me a really engaging book to read. So I'm reading all his books, and at some point, I'm done. I need new books. I was like, how do I make this happen? So I go to my parents and say, I need more allowance. Like, for what? It's like, no, not for soda, not for ice cream. I just want to buy more books. Now, as a girl, it sounds like a no-brainer to me. Why would you say no to that? But my parents were thinking differently, and they said, no more money. You're too young to be handling that much money. It's like, OK, so what do we do here? I'm bored. I need more books, and I need money to buy books. What I have at hand are books, my dad's books. What I have at hand are my classmates who have not yet read them and who also get monthly allowance. So if I can't get more monthly allowance from my parents, how do I go get their monthly allowance from them? So I started sneaking out my dad's books in my backpack. And back then, we, of course, did not have iPads, and our class lessons weren't so high-tech. So I was able to just put some of his books amongst all my big, heavy textbooks and started lending these out to my classmates to say, hey, did you know that the stars don't actually twinkle outside of the horizon? So that's not possible. Stars are supposed to twinkle. So, well, if you borrow this book for the next few days, you can learn all about why that happens. And that way, I created my first business in 4th grade. Now, my class teacher found out. She was not happy that I was, 1, distracting the kids, like always, and 2, taking their money. I was too young to be running a business in 4th grade, according to my teachers. So she said, this can't be done. If you want your classmates to read, you need to give them these books for free. It's like, well, no one wins. They're going to be done with all the books at some point. We don't have a middle school library that they can borrow books from. So this is a win-win. You do good, and you do well. What's wrong with that? I couldn't explain it to her. I wasn't convincing enough. I did shut down the book club as per her knowledge. But now, of course, it's public that it just became a secret book club. So it kept going, and my classmates were borrowing these books, and I was making money and adding more books to it. So one thing I learned, now looking back, very young age, is that curiosity is not a bad thing. And for everybody here who's a parent, who's an aunt, who's a neighbor, who's a sister, brother, foster their curiosity amongst all the kids around you. It's great if they're asking whys, and you may not know the answer, that's OK, but direct them to YouTube, direct them to lots of great resources where they can find the answers. Because a lot of great businesses are started by asking that integral why. And so for our business, which is a healthcare education company, we partner with physician practices and hospital systems around the country to bring educational videos to people living with a chronic condition, like diabetes, like rheumatoid arthritis. I didn't grow up passionate about healthcare. I didn't grow up thinking I would become a doctor when I grew up. My dad was an accountant. My mom was a teacher. Business or entrepreneurship did not really come to me naturally. But what did was asking a lot of whys. And while growing up, I learned that that can really lead you to a lot of ideas and a lot of business solutions if you channel that question in a good direction. So what we provide to physician practices is a smart TV in the waiting room, as well as a tablet in the exam room. A lot of our innovation comes from asking whys. Healthcare is not a field that I know well. It's not an industry that I grew up with. And we learned everything we learned by asking a lot of questions. We asked patients what their pain points were. We asked physicians what their pain points were. We asked office managers and practice managers what their pain points were. And by asking a lot of questions, we came up with a solution that we thought was a win-win-win for all of the stakeholders. We are a for-profit company, but we call ourselves a for-benefit company, for-profit existing for social benefit. And a lot of our innovation comes from asking why not, why so, what then, why here, why now. I love inspiring quotes, and so I've got 5 values that I want to share with you that I think represent Midwest values that help build a company here. We're based in Chicago. We work with physician practices nationwide, but in meeting a lot of people yesterday and today, I saw that a lot of the values that you build with a company with also are represented in the ecosystem that you operate in. And a lot of these values are considered very Midwest. Curiosity is one of them. And here's a favorite quote of mine: all our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. Asking the why, and just like Mike was sharing too earlier, the I wish principle, if you have an idea, if you see a pain point, if you see a solution, all you need is the courage to pursue them. You won't have all the answers on day one, but you figure it out as you go. The second is empathetically authentic. Empathy is one of my favorite words that we use almost every day in our business, whether it's in speaking with physicians, whether it's patients, whether it's training new employees. It's something we can speak of, but it only means something if you live it every day. And to live empathy, it has to be authentic. It has to come from within. And I spoke a lot about asking the why. But there's a way to ask questions that actually lead you to answers when you're building a company. An idea can come from asking a lot of whys, but to take an idea to a company, you need to channel a lot of that intelligence and knowledge you're learning about an industry to really come up with a business. And for us, a lot of that comes from having a dedicated account management team that speaks with our physicians and office managers. Now, the difference is there's 2 ways of asking questions. You can say, what do you want? What can I build for you? What can I give to you? What do you need? And this is what happens then. If I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, Henry Ford. And of course, we would not have had cars and probably not planes and a lot of cool innovation that came from that. So it's really important when you're asking questions, instead of saying, what do you want or what do you need? Instead, asking, what are your pain points? What do you see an area for improvement? What takes you more time than you're happy with right now? What is something you absolutely do not like about your job, even though you love what you do? It's what aspect of it makes this either time-consuming, painful, monotonous, and asking them their pain points and asking questions about what is it that they think could be done better helps you come to a solution to then implement. If you ask them, well, what is it that you want? We had all these ideas coming out of doctors and physicians, physician practices and their staff. We said, well, that's just not possible. But when we redirected the questioning to say, what is it that you are suffering from? What is your pain point? And being able to show the empathy for the user, that's when we really started to come up with ideas that took curiosity into a business. The third is intelligently unconventional. As you probably now noticed, a lot of our values, and these are actually values that we live by at ContextMedia every day. They're on our wall and they're in our hearts. All of them are paradox statements. They're not all 2 words that always go together. And you'll see that pattern. Intelligently unconventional was a very important one for us. Just having great IQ or just being very smart does not help you build a business. You have to be able to connect with everybody. You have to be able to consider all options. And being unconventional or being a rebel without a cause only takes you so far. So all of that intelligence you gather about an industry needs to be applied into a solution that doesn't exist. But you also need to know your industry really well. And you need to know if you are in an industry that requires disruptive innovation or incremental innovation. Healthcare, for us, for example, if we came and said, we've got this solution, and doctors don't need to come to work anymore, that's really scary proposition for physicians. They've spent their entire life educating themselves, training themselves on this art and science, and they don't want to be replaced tomorrow. Now, of course, there are some great apps where you can take pictures of a skin condition and send that into a doctor for his or her expertise. That is something that they understand. But it's important that when we come up with these solutions, understanding Uber is another great example. When Travis came up with the idea, if he said, well, we're going to do car sharing, but I'm going to do it in my building with my neighbors, great. That helps 10 people, but that's not really a business. And to tackle something like logistics and operations, you have to dream big, and you have to come up with a disruptive solution. But in healthcare, in education, in a lot of industries, the change has to be incremental. It has to understand the workflow of the end user with empathy, and then come up with a solution that is not scary. It definitely changes something, but changes it in a manageable way. So let me back up and share a couple of stories. I went to college at Northwestern in Chicago, and I am an immigrant myself. First few weeks in college, I learned of a business club called The Nugget. It's like, okay, I grew up knowing nothing about business. Going back to my curiosity, I said, I want to learn about business. So the very first meeting was on a Sunday morning, and I found out which room on campus this meeting was at. And of course, as a freshman in college, wearing jeans and t-shirt, showed up to this meeting. Looked around the room, and there was 7 men sitting there in all suits, reading the Wall Street Journal. I did not own a suit. I had never read the Wall Street Journal, and I had no idea what room I just walked into. So it's like, hey guys, I'm here for the Nugget meeting. I'm like, who are you? I'm just curious, am I in the wrong room? Nope, this is it. Okay, well, is this how you guys dress every Sunday? Yep. And what is this club about? Can't you see? Actually, no. We're reading the Wall Street Journal. It's like, what is the Wall Street Journal? I mean, it's a newspaper, I can see that, but why do you read the Wall Street Journal together? Of course, by now, just like my teachers, I'd bored them with all my questions, like, well, what are you here for? So, well, I want to learn about business. They said, well, this is not the club for you. Okay. I walk out the door, I go back to my dorm room, it's like, wow, that was an interesting experience. I'm here in college to learn, and I'm joining this extracurricular club to learn more about business. Clearly, I was not invited, and at that time, I wasn't thinking, well, I was a young girl and not dressed for the part, and you know, what's going on here? But came up with this idea with my co-founder, and my co-founder in all of these initiatives is still my co-founder at ContextMedia of 10 years. Why can't we bring things to people in a way that it resonates with them? Why can't we bring this concept called business to everybody? And why can't we show people the way that business can be done with a heart? You can do well and do good together through business models. So Rishi, my co-founder, and I started this magazine called the Northwestern Business Review. Very uninnovative, to be honest. It was titled after the Harvard Business Review, which was our inspiration. We said, all right, well, we started Northwestern, so let's call this NBR. But the idea was that our peers, many of whom were very curious about business. And what does business even mean? It's such a big, broad term. Just like entrepreneurship, it's such a big, broad term. What does it really mean? We decided to allow them to explore, write articles, bring this to their peers, their classmates, and expanded this to several campuses in the country, actually also a campus in Thailand. Now, 2 learnings through this. One, at the time, everyone was transitioning into online media. A lot of the properties were going into online consumption for their audiences, for the consumers. And we decided to launch a print magazine. A lot of the professors we approached asking for help, they said, this makes no sense. Why would you go into print when the entire industry is moving online? We said, well, our peers are reading these books hidden in their textbooks in their class. And so if they had a print magazine, they can actually take this to the classroom instead of having to sit there or just not show up to class. So we knew our audience really well because we were our own audience. We knew that's what we're doing. We weren't really paying a whole lot of attention, and these are pre-computer, pre-laptop days in the classroom where a lot of the engagement was through a professor lecturing an entire class. That then expanded into a conference, and we put together something called the Undergraduate Business Conference. It was at Kellogg, and we had this team of people who many of which are wearing suits. But the idea was that, why can't we bring education and learning in a very tangible, experiential way? Something that we're curious about, something we want to learn more about, something we know nothing about and can't access in as simple a way. Let's take this to all of our peers and invite people to learn, invite speakers to share, invite everyone to just come together through this cause. And that unconventionality stayed with us even as we launched our business. We first started by installing smart TVs in the doctor's waiting room. And when we went and pitched to quote-unquote VCs at the time, and this was about 9 years ago, they said, everyone's going web. Why are you putting TVs in the waiting room? What's so innovative about that? Why would we invest in a company that does something so simple? But in understanding our audiences, we had seen, we had heard, we had learned that these aren't the people who were smartphone savvy and they were downloading all these apps to stay healthy. And we had really done a lot to learn who the customer is and how do we really serve them. But most importantly for us, the concept that media needs to speak to people at a time and place where it actually resonates with them is really important. And the time and place, the resolution moment, is in the doctor's office often. When you're sitting there about to walk into an appointment and your physician's going to ask you, what did you eat last week? How often did you exercise recently? And you'll say, well, I eat healthy, I exercise frequently. And then he'll say, well, why is your A1C so high? I don't know. I don't know what A1C means. I don't know how to track A1C or how to impact A1C. And if the doctor writes the prescription, the doctor gives you all these terminology to go and research, you don't even know where to begin. You're completely lost. And so we decided to install smart TVs, something very simple, drove to Walmart, picked up TVs, at the time picked up DVD players, and just put a lot of material on there and said, okay, here's someone living with diabetes should be interested in these topics. Someone living with arthritis should be interested in these topics. It was very unconventional for the time because we were just so behind times, but that was what our industry needed then. And after failing in doing a lot of things, we've really taken a lot of inspiration from several quotes, but one of the ones I like a lot is, I've not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. One example, one story that really stands out to me is early 2009. Our business was about 2.5 years old. We were at a conference in Miami signing up physicians for this service and walked out to urgent text messages from then a third co-founder to say, we really need to get on a call. We call him, like, what's going on? He's like, well, we have no money in the bank. Like, okay, what does that mean? We have absolutely no money in the bank. We can't make payroll tomorrow. We've got 3 employees at this time besides the founding team. And we've got all these doctors that just signed up for our service inside the convention center. And we have no money to buy equipment because we ended up bootstrapping. We took no external capital. We knew we want to make this a for-profit, not nonprofit, because we wanted to scale and we wanted to sustain. And we find ourselves with the right product, the right market, but just the timing was such that we absolutely didn't have money. And at that moment, we probably walked in South Miami, or South Beach of Miami is a very long strip of land, and the conference was happening at the north, and so we just walked for 3.5 hours just wondering, what should we do? Should we shut down at this point? Should we defer all these installations? Should we go back inside and tell these doctors that we may not be able to install the system they just signed up for to educate their patients? That just didn't feel right. And we started thinking, what from here? Where's our path? And what really guided us in that moment was going back to a why. The why we asked ourselves in that moment was, why did we get started? And we revisited 3 years ago, what was the inspiration for us to take on this challenge? My co-founder ended up quitting out of college. He never finished. Why did we take this risk? Why did we embark on this path? And we thought back to not just all the doctors and patients that we had a commitment to, we thought back to our own grandparents. I lost 3 out of 4 grandparents very early because of diabetes complications. Similarly, my co-founder has family members living with diabetes. And we thought of our own family members and the benefit that this had provided to them and all the other families in the country that we knew we could help. And that answer, that revisiting the why we started the business is what took us through that difficult moment. We ended up going back to Chicago and working it out, and here we are 7 years later from that episode. But when you take an idea to a business, it's really important to know why you're doing it, because that journey is not going to be easy. There will be a lot of hurdles. On my right here, I was chatting with the person driving us, and he was saying, well, you know, business sounds like such a great idea. I want to start one. I was like, product building is distribution, and learning, getting feedback from your users is. But there's a lot of unforeseen sides of running a business that you should also be aware of. It's absolutely doable, but there will be a lot of hurdles, there will be a lot of obstacles that will have you question every now and then. Why did I get started? Why am I going through this? Why do I have these sleepless nights? Why am I stuck at an airport when my friends are out at an event? And it's really important to come from a place of passion and having that empathy for the end user, believing in your product, and most importantly, having a community support you. Entrepreneurship is a team sport. It cannot be won individually. And whether that community, whether that team is a co-founder, whether that's your own team of employees, whether that's mentors, advisors, investors, customers, they're all part of the community that help you win and help you compete against all obstacles, against all those hurdles. It's really important to identify who are the people that will be there the day everything goes wrong. Who are the people who believe in you the day you don't believe in yourself? Usually that's family and friends, but entrepreneurship becomes a game of an expanded family and friends. It's a group of people who buy into your vision, who see that there really is value to what you're embarking on, and how do they all come together to make it all happen. So this is my team in Chicago, and I joke with them that a team that can cook together can build companies together. Cooking takes a lot of different skill sets, takes a lot of coordination, a lot of trusting each other, and this event that we did was passing, one team was doing the dough, and the next team was baking the dough, and the third team was putting the toppings on there, and that was such a great reminder for all of us that this is really a team sport. And good days and bad days, we're all together through it all. The food was edible enough. And with basketball season starting and being from Chicago, I had to quote Michael Jordan up here. But I love this quote: talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence wins championships. And that's so important to be aware of, whether that team is your employee team or whether that team is the supporters around you. It's important to know who are the people who will help you win, not just for a day, not just for one event, but really for your business to be a success. And finally, one of my favorite values is humble invincibility. And we use this very often in our interview process at work too. 2 words that you don't always think of together: humility and invincibility. Humility, usually you think, okay, well, this person's really nice, maybe a pushover, they're gonna ask us a lot of questions, and that's great. But maybe in a startup, sometimes you want people who will figure it out. Invincibility sounds like a little cocky, full of themselves. Who calls themselves invincible? I mean, a superhero, but besides that, who calls themselves invincible? But the reason we put these two values together, for me, really summarizes what entrepreneurship is about, is having the humility to recognize entrepreneurship is a practice. It's not an art, it's not a science, it's a lifelong practice. You will never know all the answers. Even 10 years into our business, we're still dealing with completely new challenges ahead of us that we have no idea how to tackle on our own. It goes back to knowing who are the people around you who can help you answer those. So having the humility to know that you don't know everything. Having the humility to know that there's a lot to learn along the journey, that depending on what industry you're in, you may not know everything about the industry. I don't know much about healthcare. I had to learn along the way. I'm still learning along the way. I'm not an engineer by education. I don't know what language we should be coding a certain feature in. And it takes a lot of learning along the way, but it also takes a lot of building the right team around you to learn from. But the invincibility or the confidence to go find those answers is what entrepreneurship is about. There's no perfect answers along the way. There's no right path. There's no good way of doing something. The only thing you can do is fail, try again, and then fail again, and try again. A lot of times, the only way we've known the right way of doing something is by doing it in every other possible way first. And one great example that I like to share on that matter is we started a business in 2006. 2008, we started to build a team. At the time, a lot happened in our economy. People weren't leaving their jobs to go work for a startup. To be very honest, the concept of a startup was relatively young here in the Midwest. All the startup activity was happening out west. Entrepreneurship was such a big word that I still use spell check on. I don't know how to spell it. We didn't know how to get a team together, but we needed a team to succeed and to be able to sell into physician practices and provide the education for patients. And so we posted our job posts on Craigslist. Great, I've sold couches on Craigslist, I've bought a lot of stuff on Craigslist, but we started posting on Craigslist for people to come join our team, because every other job board took hundreds of dollars, which we didn't have at the time. So we got some people, and we said, okay, well, what's your sales experience? I've done this, I've done that, I've worked at a restaurant, and that takes a lot of convincing people to buy dessert once they're already full. It's like, okay, that makes sense to me. Come join our team. Did that. 2008, 2009, we had a great team, and they worked very hard to get our product into the market. And then 2009, shit hit the fan. We had no money left. When we brought this to the team and we said, we have no money, what do you guys want to do? They're like, I don't know, it's your problem. Well, we're all in it together. Well, you need to figure it out. Okay, well, something went wrong along the way. And while each of them contributed in amazing ways, and they're still part of CM alumni. I actually got to see a lot of them at our new office housewarming party recently. There was something that was missing. They had not really bought into our long-term vision. They had come and joined our team because they needed a job. We were offering a job. They had the skill sets that it took to do the job at hand. We had never communicated to them what our long-term plan is. We had never shared with them what our culture is, what our values are. And that's on us. That's on us for not having done it that way. And when we looked around and on a good day, when things are going right, they were all there, they were happy, they were showing up to work, they were doing well. On a bad day, when things started to go wrong, we could not count on them for their support, for their advice, for their buy-in, for their long-term vision. And that's when we learned that we really need to get the right people in the team. At the time, very difficult decision, but we ended up letting go of that team, and in 2010, built an entirely new team. Almost every one of the people that's joined since 2010 is still with the company, and we're about to hire our 100th employee on Monday, which is really exciting for us. It's a long way here. But it was, and this is actually our team doing yoga. We do yoga together every Tuesday in our office. And the reason I picked this picture, first was like, well, the person helping me with the deck was like, why yoga? It's like yoga to me personally identifies a lifelong practice. It's not an art, it's not a science, it's a combination of the two, but really it's just a practice. It's very individual to each person. Each body's flexibility is really your own body, you know it best. An instructor can guide you through it, but you have to feel it within yourself. And entrepreneurship, for me, is a similar analogy to yoga. It's something that you need to know your own risk factors, you need to know your own passion, you need to know your own drive to go through these skills. You need to be aware of your own strengths and weaknesses, things you can learn, things you don't know whether you can and you may not want to, things you can supplement by hiring a great team, but challenges that you may not be able to overcome. Being aware of every breath you take, of every part of your body, every challenge and hurdle along the way is the practice of entrepreneurship. And I talked about invincibility. Another word I use to replace that a lot is confidence. And a lot of times I wonder, what is confidence? And I recently came across this quote. I don't know who to attribute it to, but I really thought it summarizes what confidence and entrepreneurship means to me. And confidence comes not from always being right, but from not fearing to be wrong. And having that desire to make mistakes but get up from it, being able to fall, but knowing you will get up to keep going, and having a team of people. I cannot mention enough how important that has been in our journey, but having the people around you. There will, of course, be people who don't believe in you, too. We did have some of these VCs who are now great friends, and we co-invest with them, but they look at us and say, well, when you were 19 and looked all of 19 and came to us with this idea of putting TVs in the doctor's office, we thought you guys were crazy and naive. We were wrong, but sometimes it does take a crazy, unconventional idea to make it happen, but not fearing to be wrong, not being afraid to start all over again, not being afraid to fall flat on your face, get laughed at, but keep going. And that, to me, is a practice of entrepreneurship. And with these 5, I think it really summarizes why Midwest represents so much of the empathy, the sense of community, the humility, the confidence, the passion, the drive, and why there's so many amazing companies being built right here, whether that's in Iowa, whether it's in Indiana, whether it's here in Missouri, in Chicago. I really think there's something very unique about us, and there's no reason why we need to be seeing what the West Coast is doing, what the East Coast is doing, and that's great. They're all doing amazing things, and we should be looking to them for inspiration. But at the end of the day, the practice of entrepreneurship will come from within. So with that, I actually have a fun video to share with you, and then any questions that I can help answer. This video was actually just released in our office yesterday by a company that shot it earlier in the summer. And we just moved into a new office that really represents some of our cultural values. And this is a snapshot of our team of ContextMedia and how we manifest culture in our space.
Sometimes people think that in order to do something meaningful, it's got to be serious and boring. And we show that it can be a lot of fun. This office is gorgeous. It's beautiful. And I have so many founders that have walked in here and people from all walks of life and said, this is the most fun office I've ever been in.
Our employees are really excited about the office, especially having so much space. Our old office did not have a lot of space for the size of our team, so when we polled our team, asking them what's important as we started to review office spaces, the top 3 reasons they listed was 1, daylight, 2, ease of commute, and 3, having basic amenities like dry cleaners and grocery shops nearby. Our office is designed along a story of a superhero who's called to a mission because we are a social mission-driven company helping people live healthier. As you walk in, the first thing you see are our values. It's how we do what we do. The second thing you notice is the wall with our logo, which is made of the faces of our team. It's a constant reminder that what we do is only as important as who we do it with. The third thing you notice is a pillar that showcases our actual digital technology, and it gives people a snapshot of the media that we play in physician practices around the country.
I thought the idea of putting technology and media in this way would be really powerful. We hatched the idea and haven't looked back since then.
As a health company, there's a couple of features that we have in the office, like the treadmill desks, which people use throughout the day if they're checking emails or if they're watching a video. they utilize the plug-and-play option that we have to bring their laptop over and get a quick workout. Our space definitely helps us get candidates excited, especially with so many different opportunities in Chicago for someone to feel at home from the moment they walk in.
What motivates me most by a long shot is the people I get to work with. I want these new people who come in to do so well that they can choose where to work and what to do for the rest of their life.
The cool thing about ContextMedia is we don't look at a one-size-fits-all approach. We really think that every single person who comes in is a key ingredient to the actual dish. And so we don't look for people to actually mold themselves and fit in with our culture. We look for them to fundamentally change and improve the culture as we have it.
It's a passion, it's a reason to get up and come into work. Everybody enjoys coming here. We hire people who are not warm bodies. We hire people who want to make a difference and want to grow a company from the ground up. When you come here, there's a mission, it's clear. You really here go to bat for the person next to you. You really want to see them succeed.
We've always talked about being a collaborative organization, something we thrive on. It's part of our core value. And our old space was a huge hindrance to it. We were really all on top of each other, which kind of forced collaboration in a lot of ways. And now there's so many amazing meeting places around here and spaces just to collaborate. It's truly a big driver to our efficiency.
Culture can actually happen with very little or no capital. Culture only works when it's authentic and organic. There is no prescription for it, there is no roadmap for it. You can definitely speak with people, meet with people, and read books for inspiration. At the end of the day, you have to close your eyes and envision what it is that you're building, but more importantly, why you're building it. 2, communicate that to the team that you build, why it is that it matters that they do things in a certain way or they come in to join a certain mission. And 3, be comfortable with letting go of what you see as a vision of culture once you have the right team.
Sometimes I get chills when I walk around and I see this diverse team that's come from all walks of life, from so many different places in the world, working together in total harmony around this little vision we had that made us drop out of college. It's surreal, and it's bigger than the founders now. I could walk away and never come back, and this would be a very terrific company with a great culture. And that makes me so proud, and it makes me so happy. It's my proudest achievement, and it is very fulfilling.
When you bring together unique individuals, you can create something unique that's unique to you. Come back in a year and it'll be totally different, which is why I like it.
So that's our team. As you can see, we take a lot of pride in who we're able to now bring together behind this aligned vision and work day in and day out to make it all happen. And I will say 10 years later, the journey is no easier. The only aspect of it that does become quote unquote easy is the familiarity with the idea that there will be more challenges unforeseen along the way. With that, if we have time for any questions, but I'll also put this quote up. It's Steve Jobs' death anniversary, and he's somebody who's really redefined what it means to make big bets and to take risks and to really pursue what you believe in. And so this is something that we really look up to as well. Thank you for listening.